Spirit Guardians is the perfect spell for a player who likes to play conservative. This is the spell that clears out dungeons alone and just kills everything. This is the real fireball of D&D, and I don't understand why this isn't a meme. When I look at cleric builds, I just Control F, look for Spirit Guardians, and if it isn't there, then I don't read the guide. Yes, the spell is that strong. It's a mandatory pick for me. It's like picking Shield for Wizards, right? If you don't pick up Shield for Wizard, you're utterly insane. Anyways, welcome to Pack Tactics, where we cast Spirit Guardians and dodge. I already made a video about this spell, but a very good friend of mine told me that video sucked. So now I have to remake it, because he's right. Let's read the spell. Spirit Guardians, action, 10-minute duration. You call for spirits to protect you. They flit around you to a distance of 15 feet for the duration. If you are good or neutral, their spectral form appears angelic or fey. If you are evil, they appear fiendish. When you cast this spell, you can designate any number of creatures you can see to be unaffected by it. An affected creature's speed is halved in the area. And when the creature enters the area for the first time on a turn, or starts its turn there, it must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes 3d8 radiant damage, or 3d8 necrotic damage. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage. Upcast. When you cast this spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, the damage increases by 1d8 for each slot level above 3rd. 10 minutes, by the way, is 100 rounds. So the strategy is really simple. You just set it up out of combat and walk into a fight. When you're in the fight, you just take the dodge action and it will melt the encounter for you. Once the enemies are in the spell, it's hard for them to move, so they have to really gamble to break your concentration. And that's hard to do if you're dodging every round and you've secured your concentration with feats and stuff. When you have this spell up, you become the biggest threat on the battlefield. You are the boss. Whenever the spell procs, the enemy needs to make a wisdom saving throw. This is one of the worst types of saving throws for enemies. So that's a big win for us. If we assume 60% chance for them to fail, that's 10.8 DPR, assuming one target. It gets better though. If a creature spends 2 rounds inside the spell, that's almost fireball damage. In 2 rounds, you would deal an average of 21.6 damage. In 4 rounds, that would obviously double to 43.2 average damage. You just win. And that's not all. This is one of the best scaling spells in the game. 1d8 each level above 3rd. The additional damage works on any creature for however long you keep your spell up. It's amazing. Guys, the enemies literally drop like flies. The only responsibility you have is just to keep this spell alive by dodging. By doing this, you massively increase your sturdiness, and Spirit Guardians by itself is already doing more than enough. If your sturdiness is already fine, or you have some distance away from the enemy, consider casting cantrips. You should also consider backing Gilman's Guide to Speed. The guys over at Only Crits are making a source book for 5e that takes your adventures up in the clouds. Immerse yourself in a wind-borne arcane punk-inspired world filled with high-speed racing and very unique gameplay not even I have experienced. There's even vehicle creation mechanics too. Rules that cover the basics of creating a chassis and power unit without locking players into overly specific selections. These mechanics are designed to provide a framework of creation with enough freedom and creativity. There's also 30 pre-made vehicles you can collect, new spells and magic items, 4 new classes, 12 new subclasses, feats, and over 40 new monsters. This book is massive. If you sign up for the official Kickstarter pre-launch notification and back any of their Kickstarter packages within the first 48 hours of their campaign launch, you'll get a free set of dice from Only Crits. All you have to handle is the shipping cost, which will be processed post-campaign on BackerKit. Only Crits is the first to ever sponsor this channel, and seeing them do this project is incredibly inspiring to me. I highly recommend checking out Gilman's Guide to Speed. Your players are gonna have a really good time with this one. Back to the video. But Kobold, I want to cast Spiritual Weapon to combo it with Spirit Guardians. Gator, I don't recommend you do that, but if you really want to do it, then sure. If you want to know why I don't recommend Spiritual Weapon, I made a video about it. Link in the description. Another great part about this spell is that you can increase its potency through teamwork. This is because the spell says if a creature enters the area for the first time on a turn or starts its turn there. That means you can move an enemy into the area even outside of their turn and potentially even back and forth to deal a bunch of damage. While obviously the logistics on how you want to accomplish this depends on your party and the situation, I can outline some ways now. Let's say an enemy just took some damage from your Spirit Guardians, either because they entered it or they started their turn there. Now it's your turn. You walk away so that the enemy is right outside of your Spirit Guardians. And then you can have someone like yourself use telekinetic to pull or push them into the effect. Maybe Eldritch Blast is used with Repelling Blast or even Grasp of Hadar. A Nature Clair can use Thorn Whip. There are countless ways, really. I didn't feel like drawing Thorn Whip, but already in my example with telekinetic, Repelling Blast, and Grasp of Hadar, the enemy had to roll Wisdom save 3 times in a row. Its control is amazing too, but it's often played extremely wrong. But luckily you have me, so I'm going to tell you how it works. Here's what it says. An affected creature's speed is halved in the area. This is different from their movement. If a creature has 30-foot speed, they can move 30 feet. If that creature has moved 15 feet into Spirit Guardians, they would normally have 15 feet left of movement. However, now that their speed has been reduced by half from 30 to 15, 15 minus 15 is 0. This means they cannot escape your wrath. You shut them down. Of course, this also has the flip side of the speed reduction not doing all that much if an enemy can get out with their speed. If a creature with 30-foot speed is standing at the edge of Spirit Guardians, they would have 15-foot speed while trying to escape. They walk 5 feet and their speed is back to 30 feet. That means they have 25 feet of movement left. Not all that impressive. However, believe me, more often than not, the spell reducing speed rather than movement is beneficial to you and your friends. It's funny because while I and many others believe this spell has plenty of excuse to go into melee, this spell is even more effective when used to kite, because of the way you can reduce the enemy's speed. If your enemies are more effective in melee than at range, you could consider huddling together with your friends and press S. Walk backwards. The enemies follow and has their speed halved and cannot get to you. At least this is the case for most enemies. Meanwhile, you can pelt them with cantrips and such and finish them off. Well, Kobold, that's super boring. Just let me walk into melee. I agree, it's a little bit of a boring strategy. If you want to go into melee, then go ahead. I would probably do the same, to be honest. If your table does want to do the latter though, maybe talk about jumping ahead in time after combat is done. We do that sometimes at my tables when it's obvious we'll get through an encounter without losses of any resources. One last thing, here's the math I did 2 years ago. This is all damage to one single creature. If you want to figure out multiple creatures or in the span of so many rounds, it's really easy to figure out from here. And another thing, I almost forgot about this one. Even hypothetically, if your wisdom mod is bad, this spell is still incredibly strong due to how powerful half on a save actually is. I made a whole video about it. You should check it out because it will change the way you look at builds dramatically. That's it. That's all I wanted to say about Spirit Guardians and why it's incredible. I hope you learned something today. And I hope it's better than the old video, and I hope my friend is happy now. Anyways, end of video. I'm gonna go play Baldur's Gate now. Bye-bye!